I shouldn't be recording this. I shouldn't even be thinking about her anymore. But every time I close my eyes, she's there. Not young, not beautiful, just her. Real, raw, wrong. She was my teacher, 25 years older, and I couldn't stay away. People ask me if I regret it, if I'd do it all over again, if I'd still open that door, knowing what was waiting on the other side. And I always say, yes, 1,000 times yes, even if it ruined everything, even if it ruined her. I was 28, she was 53, but she never aged, not really. Her face just carried more stories. She used to read poems in class like they were secrets, like we weren't supposed to hear them, like only one of us was. And maybe that was me. Back then, I thought I was just a stupid teenage boy with a crush. Turns out I was something worse. I was unforgettable. Years passed. I grew up, moved cities, changed names, but the memory of her voice still lived in my bones. So when I saw her again, by accident, by fate, I don't know, my whole body stopped. Same gray scarf, same soft hands, same look in her eyes. And when she said, "You've grown," I almost told her, "So have my feelings." We started seeing each other. No titles, no expectations, just books, coffee, silence, and the kind of laughter that comes from remembering pain. She told me things no one else knew, about her father, her scars, her loneliness, and I told her things I never admitted to myself, like how I had never really been with anyone. Not fully, not like that. The first time I touched her, she trembled, not out of fear, but like someone opening a locked door after years of silence. She said, "This is a mistake." I said, "Then why does it feel like the only thing that's right?" We crossed a line that night, a line made of time, guilt, and memory. And once you cross it, you don't get to go back. I know what you're thinking, that I was too young, that she was too broken, that this was just a fantasy, a forbidden itch we both needed to scratch. Maybe you're right, but if that's all it was, why does it still haunt me? Why does her name still taste like a secret I never got to confess? She had a rule, never stay till morning, and I broke it, again and again, until one day, she didn't answer the door, and that's when I realized I didn't know the full story, not even close. There are things I haven't told you, things about her, about me, about a man who watched us from across the street, and why he knew my name. This story doesn't have a happy ending, but it has the truth. And if you're ready to hear it, I'll tell you everything. I saw her again 3 days later. She didn't text, didn't call, just opened the door when I showed up. Eyes tired, hair undone, voice quieter. She let me in without a word, and we just sat, like silence was safer than speech. I made tea. She didn't drink it. "You don't belong here," she whispered, staring at the window like something outside was watching us. Or someone. I touched her hand. She pulled back, then let it rest again. Her fingers were colder than I remembered. "Was it just once for you?" I asked. She blinked. "No," then turned away. "Which is why it has to stop." But it didn't. She kissed me again, rougher this time, like she was punishing herself, like my mouth was a place she wasn't allowed to return to, but always did. We didn't talk about age, or labels, or the years between her bookshelves and my Spotify playlists. But there were moments, sharp, sudden, quiet moments, when she'd flinch at the word "we," like she couldn't imagine the world letting that word belong to us. In bed, she said things in half-sleep. Names, dates, apologies. Once I think she cried. I didn't ask. I just held her, like holding her meant I could keep her, like touch could erase the past. But then came the dinner party, her colleague's birthday. She asked me to come. I said yes too quickly. They all thought I was her nephew, or maybe her son's friend. She didn't correct them, didn't touch me, didn't smile. She was a different person in that room, polished, distant, professional, and I felt like a secret she'd suddenly become ashamed of. On the drive home, I said, "Why are you pretending we don't exist?" She didn't answer, just looked out the window, her reflection pale in the glass. Finally, she said, "Because we don't. Not in their world. Only in ours. And even that is fading." That night, she didn't ask me to stay. And I didn't beg to. I walked home in the cold, hands shaking, head full of words I didn't say. But as I turned the corner to my building, he was there again. The man from the first time. Same coat, same stare, leaning on a lamppost like he belonged to the dark. He didn't speak, just watched me pass. And for the first time, I felt afraid. Not of him, of what he might know. He showed up again, 2 nights later, across the street from her apartment. Same posture, same stillness, like he wasn't waiting, just watching. This time I didn't look away. I crossed, stood right in front of him. "What do you want?" I asked. He didn't answer, didn't blink. Then, after a long pause, "She won't tell you," he said, "but you'll find out. Eventually." I told her the next day, about him, about what he said. She froze, then forced a laugh that sounded like a cough. "You're being dramatic," she said, but her hands were shaking. "Who is he?" I pressed. "No one. Someone I used to know. He's harmless." But she wouldn't meet my eyes. And I realized something. It wasn't me she was trying to protect. It was whatever truth she was burying. The next few days were fragile, like walking across glass barefoot. One wrong word and everything could shatter. She was quieter, more affectionate, oddly, like she was trying to memorize me before letting go. She cooked for me, read poetry aloud again, touched my face like it might disappear. And I wanted to believe that meant she was choosing me. One night, she asked me to stay over, but not for sex. She just wanted me there, beside her, breathing. She fell asleep with her head on my chest. And in the dark, I whispered, "I love you." She didn't respond, but her fingers tightened around mine. I thought that was enough, but in the morning she was gone. Not gone, just not in the bed, not in the apartment. Her phone was on the table, still warm, still charging. Her bedroom smelled like her shampoo, and something else, like dust, like unopened letters. I waited, an hour, 2. Then I looked around. I shouldn't have, but I did. Drawers, bookshelves, cabinets, and behind a stack of photo albums. A small box, locked, but the key was taped to the bottom shelf. Inside, a black and white photograph. A young girl in uniform, eyes like hers. On the back, Elise, 1974. A hospital bracelet. Initials I didn't recognize. A dried flower, pressed in wax paper. And a letter, folded, yellowing, torn at the corner, addressed to Daniel. My name, but it wasn't in her handwriting. I didn't open it. Not then, because she came back. She looked wrong, flushed, out of breath, hands empty, like she'd run from somewhere far. When she saw me standing near the box, she stopped, cold. "Did you open it?" Her voice was almost a whisper. "No," I said. Then, "Who's Elise?" She didn't speak. Her face crumbled, like a paper mask soaked in rain. Then she walked past me, took the box, locked it back. "Don't ever go through my things again." That should have ended it. But instead, I reached for her, held her, even as she stiffened. "I just want the truth," I said. She pulled away, and for the first time since all this began, she looked at me like a stranger. "The truth?" she repeated. "You're not ready for the truth." That night, she didn't sleep. She sat by the window, smoking, something she never did. At 3 a.m., she said, "You remind me of him." "Who?" She didn't answer, just stared into the dark. And then, "I never meant for this to happen." "What?" "You, me, all of it. I should have known better." I stood up. "You still think this is a mistake?" She looked at me, finally. "No," she whispered. "It's worse than that. It's a consequence." I left. I didn't look back. But outside, before I turned the corner, I saw him again. Same man, Same stare. Only this time, he smiled. I went home, sat in the dark. The letter still in my coat pocket. I hadn't meant to take it, but now that I had it, I couldn't stop thinking about what it might say. So I opened it. Just one line inside. Just 7 words. And they changed everything. He's not your son. But he should have been. I didn't sleep. Not a second. I just sat there, staring at the letter, over and over. He's not your son. But he should have been. Who wrote it? To who? And why use my name? I didn't go to work. Didn't eat. Didn't text her. Couldn't. Not after reading that. Not after all the nights I spent in her arms, thinking I knew her. She had told me once in a whisper, I lost someone once. A long time ago. That was it. No name. No story. Just the ache in her voice. I thought she meant a lover. Maybe a husband. But what if it wasn't that? What if she meant a child? I went back to the photo. The girl. Elise. 1974. Could that be her? Was that the year? I counted the math in my head. If she was 17 then, if something happened, could she have had a child? Could she have... No, I couldn't go there. My phone buzzed. It was her. Just one message. Come over. Now, please. 3 words. And all the fear came rushing back. The apartment was dark when I arrived. Lights off. Curtains drawn. She opened the door with trembling hands. Eyes red. Makeup smeared like she hadn't slept either. I stepped inside. She didn't say anything. Just sat. Back to the window again. I know what you took, she said after a long silence. I said nothing. She turned her face toward me, slowly, then nodded. You read it. I nodded. You think I'm your mother, she said flatly. Not a question. A knife. My throat dried. I couldn't even say no, because for 1 second, that was exactly what I feared. But she shook her head. No, she whispered. You're not my son. That's not the secret. I waited, every heartbeat like thunder. But I did have one, she said. A son. A long time ago. Her voice cracked. I was 17. Catholic school. They hid me when I started to show. My parents made sure no one knew. When I gave birth, they took him away. Closed the door. That was it. She looked at her hands, like she could still feel the weight of an infant she never got to hold. They told me he was adopted. Somewhere up north. No records. No names. Just gone. A long silence. I used to wonder, she continued, what he looked like, if he was safe, if he hated me. I sat down across from her, tried to breathe. So who's Daniel? I asked. The letter used my name. She looked up, and for the first time, she looked afraid of me. Daniel was someone I met years later, she said. My student. He reminded me of everything I'd lost. I felt something tighten in my chest. Wait, another student? She nodded. We never crossed the line. Not then. But I think he loved me, and I let him get too close. A cold wind seemed to pass through the room, even though all the windows were shut. Was he the man outside? I asked. She closed her eyes. Yes. I stood up, paced, my hands trembling. So, what is this? Is this just a pattern for you? Broken boys? Is that what I am to you? Her voice rose sharp. No, you were different. You were real. Then why lie? I didn't lie, she said. I just didn't tell the truth fast enough. Silence. Then, she said the one thing I wasn't ready for. He found your name, she whispered. On my mail. Weeks ago. I froze. What? He followed you. Watched you. He thought you might be his brother. The room spun. But I'm not. No, she said softly. You're not. A pause. But there's something else. I stared at her, waiting, afraid. She swallowed hard, tears clinging to her lashes. You know how you always said I felt familiar to you? I nodded. She looked away. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Her voice cracked as she said it. I stared at her, the woman I'd touched, kissed, worshipped, and for the first time, I felt like I didn't know her at all. She stood, walked to the bookshelf, pulled down a file, yellowed, fragile, hands trembling. She laid it in front of me, open to a birth certificate. My name, my birthday, my mother's name, not my mother, not the woman who raised me, not the woman I buried 2 years ago, a different name, Elise Marin. The air vanished from the room, like the walls collapsed inward. I stepped back. This is a joke. She didn't speak. No, this is wrong. I would have known. I would have. You were adopted, she said. I didn't know where they sent you, but I recognized the name when we met. I thought, it couldn't be. Couldn't breathe. You knew, I said. All this time? You knew and you didn't tell me? I didn't know at first, she said, tears falling now. I suspected. Then, I saw the scar on your collarbone. I touched it instinctively. Tiny mark. From surgery I had at birth. She sobbed. I remembered. They said he had a heart defect. I asked the nurses. I begged for details. Anything. My hands were shaking. Everything around me turned blurry. You should have told me, I whispered. I was going to, she said. But then and I couldn't. I didn't want it to be true. You don't understand, Daniel. Don't call me that. My voice ripped through the room like glass shattering. You lost a child. I get that. But you found him again and I couldn't say it. Couldn't put the words together. It was too disgusting. Too real. She collapsed into the chair, head in her hands, silent. I didn't plan this, she said finally. I thought maybe you were just a coincidence. I didn't want to destroy you. You didn't want to destroy me? I laughed, bitter. Lady, you lit the match and watched me burn. My skin crawled. I thought back to every moment, every kiss, every whisper, every touch, all of it, smeared with a new kind of filth I couldn't wash off. I was alone for so long, she whispered. I gave you away. I hated myself for it. When you came into my life, you saved me. You didn't want a son, I said coldly. You wanted a second chance at love. She didn't deny it. And that broke something in me. I'm going to the police, I said. She nodded. I deserve that. And somehow, that made it worse. Because part of me still wanted her to fight, to scream, to beg me not to. Instead, she just sat there, like she'd been waiting for this moment for years. I left without another word. Door slamming behind me, I walked for hours, down empty streets, through alleys, trying to shake the feeling from my skin. But it was inside me now, like a poison, curse. I checked into a motel, cheap, anonymous, and threw up in the sink. In the morning, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. She's gone. I stared at it, hands frozen over the screen. Then another. She left a letter for you. I didn't reply. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to feel anything anymore. But I did. Of course I did. Because even in my rage, even in my revulsion, a part of me still ached for her. That was the worst part. That I couldn't just hate her. Because I had loved her. Desperately. Entirely. And love doesn't vanish when the truth arrives. It stays. And rots. Like flowers left on a grave too long. I stayed in that motel for 3 days. Didn't go to work. Didn't answer calls. Then one morning I got in my car and drove back to the apartment. It was empty. Completely. Not a single trace of her. Except a white envelope on the floor. With my name. Inside. A single page. Written in her handwriting. The same soft curve I had memorized in poems. In recipes. In notes on my skin. You saved me. And I destroyed you. I'm sorry. I never stopped loving you. Not as a mother. Not as a woman. I don't expect forgiveness. But I wanted you to know the truth before I disappear. You were never a mistake. Only my consequence. I didn't cry. I thought I would. But all I felt was cold. Not numb. Cold. Like the part of me that felt things had packed up and left. I stared at the letter for a long time. Then folded it. slipped it back into the envelope, and lit it on fire in the motel sink. She was gone. No trace, no forwarding address, no goodbye, just ash. I didn't tell anyone, not my friends, not my therapist, especially not my adoptive father. He thought I was just traveling, healing. If he knew where I'd been, what I'd done, he would never look at me the same. Neither would God. Weeks passed. I tried to go back to my old life. Work, gym, groceries, smiling when people said, "You look better these days." Better than what? Better than the man who slept with the woman who gave birth to him. I started drinking again. Not heavily, just enough to fall asleep before the memories arrived. But they always did. Drunk or sober, I'd see her face in the mirror behind the bar, hear her voice in the back of my head. Daniel. The worst part? I missed her. Not as a mother, not even as a lover, just her. The quiet way she folded her sweaters. The way she brewed tea like it was a sacred ritual. How she hummed sad jazz songs when she thought I wasn't listening. All of that, gone. And it killed me that I still wanted it back. One night, I drove to the address from the adoption record. Just to see. It was a rusted-out building now. Empty. Condemned. No signs of who had once lived inside. No answers. Just bricks, dust, and a ghost. I stayed in my car until morning. At some point, I looked at myself in the mirror. Really looked. And I said it out loud. She was my mother. The words didn't sound human. Didn't sound like they came from me. They just hung in the air. Rotten. Irrevocable. I stopped dating. Stopped looking people in the eye. I was afraid. Not of what they'd see in me, but what I might see in them. Every time I met someone kind, beautiful, warm, I'd hear her voice again. You reminded me of everything I lost. And I'd pull away. Too fast. Too sharp. Until I was alone again. And safe. And bleeding. Months passed. Seasons shifted. I aged 5 years in one winter. And then, one day, a letter came. No return address. Just one sentence inside. I saw you on the street. You looked happy. I didn't say anything. There was no name. No signature. But I knew. It was her handwriting. And she had seen me. She was still out there. Somewhere. Watching. Hurting. I threw the letter away. Then dug it back out of the trash an hour later. And read it again. And again. Until the ink started to blur from my fingerprints. I didn't respond. Didn't know how. What do you say to the woman who broke you open? And also gave you life? I thought I could move on. But every relationship I tried since failed. Not because I compared them to her, but because I couldn't tell the truth. Not even to myself. I became two people. One smiling, social, making jokes at brunch. The other, lying awake at 3 a.m., whispering her name like a prayer I wasn't allowed to say. Some nights I dreamt of her. Not in the way I used to. Not with lust. But with longing. We were sitting at the window again. Light coming through the curtains. Jazz playing softly. She'd be folding laundry. And I'd be watching her. Thinking, if this is wrong, why does it feel like home? I started writing. Pages and pages. Letters I'd never send. Confessions I'd never share. I filled a notebook with every memory. Every breath. Every sin. I kept it locked in a drawer. The only truth I had left. They say time heals. But time just makes you better at pretending. It's been a year. I haven't seen her. Haven't heard from her. But I still feel her in the room when it's quiet. Like some part of her never left. Or maybe some part of me never did. They say when something ends, you get closure. I didn't. I got silence. And silence is heavier than grief. Because at least grief is proof that something mattered. I never saw her again. No more letters. No more glimpses from across the street. Just the memory of her hands. And the smell of black tea in an empty room. For a long time, I kept her secret. Tucked it inside the pages of that notebook I filled. But one day I burned it. Page by page. Not to forget. But to finally say goodbye. It didn't work. Because grief doesn't listen to fire. It lives in the cracks. In the quiet. In the things you almost say, sometimes I imagine a different ending. One where she tells me the truth the first night, where I walk away, where I never touch her. I imagine growing up never meeting her, living a clean life, unscarred, whole. But then, I wouldn't have known her laugh, her voice when she read poetry out loud, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. And for that, I can't say I regret everything, just most things. I still don't know what to call what we had. It wasn't just lust. It wasn't just loneliness. It was a hunger to be seen, to be held, to belong to someone even if it was wrong, especially because it was wrong. People want love to be clean, sanitized, pretty, but sometimes love is the darkest thing you'll ever touch. And you touch it anyway. I've thought about telling someone, really telling them, but the truth? No one would believe me, and worse, some would understand. So I live quietly now, different city, different name. I go to work, I read, I sleep alone. I see her in strangers sometimes, older women with quiet eyes, or hands that fold laundry just the same. And for a second, I forget to breathe. This story doesn't have a moral. It isn't a warning. It's just mine. And now it's yours too. If you're still here, still listening, thank you. Not everyone makes it to the end of a story like this. Not everyone wants to, but maybe you did because something in you understands what it's like to carry a secret that never stops whispering. Maybe you too have loved someone you shouldn't have, or still do. If the story moved you, if it made you think, or ache, or remember, I'd love to know. Tell me in the comments. Was it real love? Or just two broken people mistaking pain for connection? And if you want to hear more stories like this, taboo, tragic, human, let me know what you want next. What's your gray zone? What's the line you almost crossed? Or did? Drop your thoughts, your confessions, or even just a word that stayed with you. I read every single one. And don't forget to follow the channel. I've got more stories to tell. Some darker, some softer, but all real. Because sometimes the stories we're afraid to speak are the ones we need most to hear. See you next time. And until then, be gentle with your ghosts. They're still learning to let go too.